What's up guys, Sorceress here. Today we're going to be theory crafting Mythic 2 Lion. So this is a really exciting one for me, and I figured I'd bring you along on the process that I go through theory crafting to get the biggest hits I can possibly try and get. What we have right now is the very first season of this specific map at a high difficulty, and specifically the first time hitting Lion on Mythic. So what we have at the very beginning of the season is pretty much nothing. We know the map, we know where things are going to be, but not much testing has been done. So I've kept myself pretty busy with this channel, and I haven't actually had the chance pre-season to really theorycraft too much, but my intention always was to, after we hit the boss, have a look and see if there's any replays available and see what I can figure out from other people's openers, and then try and tool with it a little bit. So on that topic, here's a screenshot from the first replay I saw where they got an early X. My intention was to plan this entire video around an early X run, because I knew that the boss loves to run into the low ground when he does the X, as long as he's within range of the low ground. And so for that reason, I figured if I wanted to get a really flashy thumbnail and get a really big hit, the best plan is to plan around that. Of course, I do also want to make sure that my strat works when I don't get an early X, but that's something I have to tool with when I get to it. For the most part, this is where my head is. So let's have a look at the positions here and think, what would we do once we got to this position? So we'd of course want Neurothrope to be in a position where he can still hit the boss. We'd want to have Zakar in a spot where he can get the 2 books onto him, and we'd want to have enough guys blocking the high ground. So from this perspective, I'm looking at this going, this is realistic. I think we can do it. Next step is, how do we get to this position in the first place? So the thing that I really wanted to make sure I could do is, of course, have Neuro in range of the boss. So we've got here me opening this up in Snipping Tool, as I always do. I've got Neuro is N, and we go, oh, Neuro goes there, there, and then the third step somewhere else. I think we can all see the problem here. I've put Neuro in a position where he'd pretty much have to be in melee range of the boss for one of those turns to get this to work. And that's not really a smart idea, because what if he doesn't do the early X? What if he decides to just kill the Neurothrope instead? All of these ideas are kind of going through my head, so back to the drawing board with this. So I decided instead to come up with something completely new. And I've got a little line up here where what we're trying to do is make sure that Neurothrope isn't getting hit by everything at the same time. Trying to get Neurothrope as close as we can to the center, because he has 2 movement, so he's the guy who's going to be left behind if anyone is. Also, I'm looking at Lion having 3 movement, and I'm trying to see, is there a way to get him to move to a position where he isn't moving as far down as possible? Because the one thing we don't want in this run is for him to get too far down, because once he gets too far down, he won't be going to the low ground when he uses his summons. Now, at the time, I thought this was sound. Now that I'm recording this and looking at the video, I can see that he is going to be moving 3 spaces. I wasn't cooking here, but you know, you win some, you lose some. So after this, I wanted to pre-plan out how the next turn would look. The one thing on my mind yet again was making sure that he doesn't get any lower than that one little selected area I've got there. That way, if he does the X, he runs away. If he doesn't do the X, he doesn't run down, so he still runs away. So I've got the 2 Hellblasters on the left and the right, Abaddon in the center. We've got the Watchers on the left and the right hand side at the top. Archimedos will be hitting the Watcher, knocking him out of the range. We'll have Zakar there to get the Book of Fate proc when we do that. We'll have Araman trying to use an active to blow up those Hellblasters. We'll have Abraxas there using his active to clear out that Hellblaster while also getting 2 Neuroparasites on the boss. Didn't take too long, and someone's already hit 1 mil, and I haven't even been able to hit the boss yet, which is pretty interesting. So they've actually posted this one online, and I've been able to see what their opener was, and honestly, I don't trust it. He's got Neurothrope standing in the low ground at the start, and he's got 2 Hellblasters coming and hitting him, having a very high level Neurothrope, which I don't have that level. So I'm looking at this, I am impressed, but I am still very much interested in making my own run, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So we've got my opener, and this video is being recorded in the future, so I can just give you the play-by-play as it happens. So I realized before this run happened that I could actually throw Neurothrope in the center there, and it wouldn't be a problem if he was the target, because you don't want everyone getting on low health anyway, so spreading the damage isn't a bad thing. And we've done a lot of the things that I had in mind with putting the Neuroparasite up and getting the Flame Hex down, getting Zakar there, getting in a refresh, and we got the early X. Let's see how we do with it. And something really funny is you get to see the ping pong. When you have Screamers, they like to use their active, and it just ping pongs these guys all over the place. You'll also see that because of what we've done with the turn 1 summons of our own, is we don't have room to put Zakar in the high ground. And I think if this is the strat we end up using in the future, it's going to rely on a lot of variance just to have those summons not go and block your ability to put down Zakar. I'm actually quite happy with how all of this is looking right now. Like, we've got those Deathwing Terminators in positions where they're not a real problem for the team. No one's looking like they're going to die. Something I will just point out, in case you haven't noticed doing this yourself, that if you aren't using the active on Abaddon and you're not attacking all the time, that is the best way to make sure that Abaddon doesn't die. Because as soon as you use his active, he's getting 2 chances to get a retaliation and he's getting blasted. Along with running the Screamers, because the Screamers get a lot of hits on their own, they'll be ramping up those parries. So this is actually working quite well as a high ground shooting gallery. I can understand why someone hit 1 mil so quickly. It's quite a nice map. It's very friendly with having the boss go straight to the low ground, so you can really just pump the damage. The only thing that I think of when I'm looking at this run now is we have all these summons in the way and the summons are causing problems, so how can we deal with that? One thing that I want to try is just push the variance. The other thing that I want to try is not using the summons with Archimedos on that turn, because that really did just multiply the amount of places where all these summons are just getting in the way of everything. So we did already discuss a little bit of this, but this is what I did afterwards, is I opened up Snipping Tool again and did the exact same thing. I had a look at where I thought the problem turns were, and I tried to figure out exactly how I could resolve the problems that occurred. I look at this and I think, yeah, this is the greatest idea ever. Like, just kind of get your head around what you did wrong and try and redo it. But the conclusion that I came to was all of the positions of the things that were causing problems on this map right now were completely random, and I had no control over it. So I'm just going to give it another go and try and do the thing that I mentioned where I don't use Archimedos as active. That way there's less summons just covering the screen. So let's have a look at how that went. This is very much the exact same opener as before, so not a massive amount to really bring up this time around. Doing all the same things, getting pretty much the exact same outcomes. And thankfully, we did also get another early X, so very nice on that regard. Let's just check out how different the variance goes this time around. One cool thing is we did get to get Ahriman into a position where he can set the fire hex while still being able to summon Zakar. This is something that I was a little bit suspicious of at first, because what if that Zakar dies and then his hex gets taken? I can't remember perfectly if that's actually even a real thing to worry about. Either way, that's not what happened. So while this looks pretty much exactly how I wanted the run to go, you can see here, everyone gets in the way, so we lose the high ground to ourselves. Another thing that is a bit of a worry when you're looking at like a long term for how this run's going to go is having all those Terminators spawn right next to the boss. It does mean the boss is going to end up avoiding a large amount of damage on the turn that they spawn. But to me, I also think it's a big plus because we're not having them spawn all around Neurothrope or getting in the way of your ability to do the fight. It is a really nice thing to be able to just blast through them all because they're right next to the lion, even if it does mean that you're losing a little bit of that ceiling. So let's have a look at the end then, hey? 1.05 mil. So it is an improvement. It wasn't a massive change, to be honest. And because of that, I'm looking at this wondering, what can we do next time around? But I'm out of tokens and he's actually dying a lot faster than I expected. So we're going to have to take a little bit of a Mortarion break. I'm going to play this one at 1.5 times speed just so that it doesn't take up too much of the video, but I was pretty happy with this. This is me running an old strat that I did last time we saw this map. Yep, running Eldrion and running Roswitha. I think that if I swapped Roswitha with Abaddon, I could probably get more damage out of this run. I do like Eldrion. Specifically, you'll see at the end, he actually gets hit and he survives the hit, and that kind of makes this run because otherwise you've got this big clump of guys that are perfect targets for Mortarion to hit. There it is. That is pretty much the only reason I'm thinking about keeping him in this team. 1.2 mil, pretty solid. I am happy with that. I'm gonna mess around with it next time around, but yeah, that was our Morty break. First cycle down, and we are back on the lion. So we're having a look at the strat again, and what I'm thinking is avoiding the turn 2 summons that I did with Abraxas to see if I can get away with less bodies on the board, which means that if he does run away, we don't have to worry about having all these guys getting in the way of Zakar. And with with that, we got a replay. So the same first turn as before, almost the same second turn when you really think about it, but this time I'm trying to get everyone to be able to use their Books of Fate. So very quickly you can see he's not done the early X, and we'll have to see what happens from here. We've managed to get rid of the watches, so that's something, but he didn't run off. Yeah, so he's in a position where he can actually get to the low ground, but he chooses not to. Now, this is actually not something that I noticed when I first watched this replay, and I thought that was a completely different issue. So when I came back and had a look into how to deal with this problem, I actually tried to block the lower areas so that he wouldn't move lower, so that he wouldn't have this same problem, which now that I'm looking at it isn't even the problem that we had in the first place. Now that I've had a better look at how everyone else's results have been for the season, this is honestly not that bad. That said, I looked at this and I thought, you know what, let's keep cooking. So this is what I started cooking up. It is about trying to keep the boss from getting too low. Maybe even though he wasn't out of range of the high ground, it could have still been the problem anyway. So what we've done is we've got him stuck in that exact same spot where he moved to on turn 1. We've got Archimedos standing in the way. We've got Abaddon standing in the way. We're using Abraxas and Archimedos to still be able to use the car's Book of Fate, and we're not doing the turn 2 summons, so we're not flooding the board. So we are still kind of cooking something new. And so on that topic, we got another replay. It's hard to make the first 2 turns interesting after we've seen it so many times. So I'm probably going to be fast forwarding at this point, but looks very similar, and we've ended up with him taking the low ground on the other side of the planet. Because we've got all these fire hexes, we've kind of screwed ourselves, and we don't have Neurothrope in range to hit that turn, and Abraxas just got murdered. So we were able to kind of get everyone back into position, but we immediately did lose the high ground, so that ruins the entire run when you really think about it. We have recovered killing the Terminators, but yet again, it's not going to be a good run anymore. And boom, Arky's gone. So that's just really a sign of how rough it can be. And you really want to make sure that your run can capitalize on that high ground if it gets it. And look at the number at the end. 610k. That sucks. That was honestly, that one, I did it, and I'd just flash it up on the screen right now. This is what I said in guild chat afterwards. I said, I'm done, I'm out. You know, I looked at that, and I will admit, I said that message immediately because I was mad. And then I looked on YouTube and I saw someone else's replay with 1.1 mil, and I was super tempted to follow it. And I realized it was using that same opener that I'd mentioned from the first day that I was looking at this theory crafting. And he had done it with a block on turn 1. So the only way I could have done it is either like maybe through the skin of my teeth, or also getting really lucky with a block. I didn't like that idea, so I did actually just go, you know what, I give up. And with that, I figured I may as well just do my original strat, because it was consistently doing more than 1 mil, which is actually still better than our average. So let's just have a look at how that ended up going. Yet again, super interesting. Wow, you haven't seen this opener before. Yep, applying the Neuroparasite, setting it on fire, doing the summons, yep, summoning Zakar, using the Book of Fate. Interesting gameplay, never seen this before. And we got the early X, very nice. Time to play some ping pong. So there wasn't any good spots to put Zakar down, and I ended up deciding, well, I may as well just throw those bloodletters down. Last time I put Zakar in the very left-hand corner. This time I figured I'd see what happens if I put him not in that corner, and see if it would do something with the summons that the boss does. And it ended up doing something crazy. See the 2 guys down at the very bottom? What are they doing? Nothing. What else are they doing? They're baiting the summons away. So I summoned all these guys to have them deal with his summons, and not only are they doing that, but his summons are also dealing with my summons in a way that means that I can actually just fight the boss. And I'm doing the same strategy that I mentioned, where I'm avoiding using Abaddon attacking so that he doesn't kill himself on the boss. And I'm also just doing the shooting gallery thing. Everything really felt like it just clicked into place this time around. I know that that's not because of 100% just me big braining this strat out, but it did just work. I do think that there's a chance that you can probably get 1.3 or even 1.4 mil with this exact same opener and just a little bit more luck. The thing is, there's a chance that all of those Deathwing Terminators spawning at the very bottom of the map was because I had so many summons, and those summons were blocking where they could spawn. So if you instead decided to summon Zakar and then not use the Archimedos active to summon a bunch of Bloodletters, you might end up with not the same spawns that I had, so it might not end up being the same outcome. This will be the last replay that I do before I start editing this video and throw it up. I really do want to try and push this one out as soon as possible so that you guys will be able to see it and learn what you can from it and put it all into practice while the boss is still in rotation. That does also mean if I get a bigger hit, I'll probably just post it as a short. It's not going to be part of this video. While we're closing up now, I do just want to say I'm so thankful for all the growth I've already seen on this channel, and I'm planning on posting as much good high quality content as I can. Today's video was a little test run for what I want to do as a long-term series for every season where there's something that we can really try and figure out. Because I know that there's only so many guides that need to be made, and my intention never was to be the guy that posts about new updates and stuff like that unless it specifically does matter, either for Neurothroat team or just the meta itself. So I've got a couple of pretty big guides coming in the next month, and I'm really excited to see everyone's reactions to it. But for the meantime, I'm going to be keeping to a weekly schedule, so even though they're in the tank, you're gonna have to just wait for them. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you learned something today, and I'll see you in the next one.